you have questions that you were just asking me, so.
Yeah.
I would ask those now, before we get too far into it.
We don't go through all the other stuff first? All right. We got into this a little bit at the last meeting, and literally with regard to this particular petition, I need some clarification, and it may be redundant, so I apologize, but with regard to enforcement, okay? So in this situation, things were done regardless of whose fault it was, or mismeasuring, or who knows what, and over a period of time, those things compounded. And then, like 20 years later, we finally find out because a neighbor finally said something about it, right? And I also find the remonstrance letter to answer some of my questions with regard to that, like why did the guy wait so long? He's indicating, so he says, that he tried to do it a long time ago and nobody did anything. So my question is, in this situation, everybody knew what the setbacks were supposed to be. Building B, I believe it is, in this situation, right? Is the one that's 4 feet from the property line? Okay, not worried about landscaping or anything like that right now. But Building B is the one that's close. That was built in 2005. 2013. Well, that's when the first aerial appearance was. The approval date, building permit was 9/13/2013. But it doesn't say anything about a C of O. Is that because there isn't one, or just because we couldn't find it?
I don't know. These are the records that we have. It doesn't necessarily
Sure.
mean that a C of O wasn't issued.
Right, right. But there isn't one, to our knowledge, at this point. The question is, if no one would ever have said anything, how would this ever have come up? So I'm curious about how we find out about these things and then the enforcement. And it seems like there was none.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Go on.
The complaint was in regards to Building A, and the complaint was following the June 2021 ABCA hearing, which approved certain setbacks. Greg Anthony was present at that June meeting, and so he was very involved in the process, and he followed up when it was incorrectly built. And so that was what the complaint was about. So,
And just to clarify, it goes beyond the zoning violation complaint. It's that they're intending to sell, and they need the site to be in compliance in order to obtain financing.
Sure,
yes.
yeah. But I don't view that as this board's problem. That's them and their buyer's problem. Okay, so that clarifies that item. What building department is it? Was that county or was that Osceola?
County.
It's county, Osceola doesn't have a building.
I thought they did. Okay, all right. Okay, that's it for the moment.
On top of that, I want to add, due to the fact the driveway of the house has been there forever, since the house has probably been built.
Which house?
The house of the picture next to A and B, to the west, I'm assuming that's west. Why wouldn't they have known that the driveway was less than 20 foot away when they were building it, or within reason? In other words, use your obvious things that you look at if you're a building inspector. Why wouldn't they have said, well, that's closer than 20 feet, the driveway? Wouldn't that be a red flag that you're maybe too close to the property line? If somebody's on the wrong side of the property line, you know, with the driveway? In other words, these guys are out there supposedly professionally doing this. I don't deal with them.
So, here's what I'm gonna suggest.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna suggest that we have Randy come to a meeting and do some education for the board. How about that?
That'd be cool.
Because I think we're placing a lot of blame on the building department that's not there.
It would be very helpful to have
just-
Randy give you guys some
I'm just trying
input
to
on some of the
recreate the
variances.
crime 20 years
I understand.
later,
Yeah.
30 years
So,
later.
what I want, do you guys have any questions?
Back then, that was Don Fozo and other people.
Do you guys have any questions for them pertaining to this particular petition right now? Okay.
Terry Lang from Lang Feeney, the Whiteman office. Our address is 715 South Michigan Street here in South Bend. Represent the petitioners. I'm not going to delve into the stuff that was basically talked about at the last meeting. I think everybody's aware of that. But in filing the request for information, a lot of the information that the planning office provided me also cleared up some of the variances that we were asking for probably wouldn't need to be asked for. And I'm going to go through those just briefly, and the staff can kind of confirm that. If I'm not mistaken, the building B that's shown on the map there, that was granted a variance in, I want to say, a couple years ago because of the existing portion of that. And then they modified their plan when they did the north part of B and A to slide them over to comply, but they still didn't comply. So the close extremity of the building B being 4 foot off, that was given a variance a couple of years ago when Marbach Brady had done their variance petition for that. Because I was here at that meeting for something else on that.
Was it
Now,
granted for 4 feet?
I believe it was.
Well, but it was only granted for 4 feet for that initial building, correct? It
For
wasn't
that
the
south part
extension.
of it.
Are you guys looking that up?
I can't look that up right now.
I thought it was in here. I thought we read that.
Okay.
Yeah, because that variance, when they got that variance, it was to allow that south portion of building B to remain, and then they were going to modify the plan for the north part of building B and for the north part of building A. So the concern with regards to the variance for the 4 foot was granted a variance previously, a couple years ago, by Marbach Brady when they did their survey at that point in time. And that's part of the paperwork that's included in the packet there. Now, going down to some of the other items, obviously, I'll start at the bottom, the easy one. The foundation landscaping you guys saw has been installed out there, so we're not going to ask for that variance. If we could remove that from the petition, that item has been satisfied. The front yard and side yard landscaping, in discussing with the property owner, there are plans coming shortly for the widening of McKinley from Ash all the way down to Birch. So anything that he would plant out by the road right-of-way out there for that front yard portion of it, beyond the foundation landscaping, most likely will be tore up with that construction of the widening of McKinley. That is the very last phase that the county had committed to doing to widen from the county line all the way down to the Hummer plant down there. So that was one of the reasons why we were asking for that one to stay as shown in the photograph that we have there currently. Now, the next one coming up, item number 4 of the petition, it addresses Building H on the plan. And if you look at the top up here on Building H, they had submitted a site plan to the building department, and this is in the paperwork that the county pulled. You'll see that there was a site plan that showed that building setting 10 feet off of the south property line. And the building department issued the building permit, which is included in that packet that you have, for that. So the building department checked off on the Building H setback requirement along the south property line, which I thought it was originally granted at 16 feet, but their paperwork shows it as being 10 foot off of that property line. So at that point, the building department did see that, and the building department did approve that building location for that. Now, on some of the concerns for the landscaping on the side, if you'd go back to several of the picture portion of it, that would be very helpful if you could, please, Shelley. Right, okay, right there. These pictures that you're looking at right here, the east perimeter, the chain link fence is the east property line of the petition property. Mr. Wood also owns the residential home adjacent to that, and he installed the dog-eared 6-foot-high fence along the perimeter of all of his property, including the parcel that's residential and the parcel that the south picture, you can see it The fences are side by side. The 6-foot chain link fence has the barbed wire on top, obviously for security of the storage area, as well as the cameras that are around the buildings, and the chain link, or the dog-eared fence at that location also. That was shown on that site plan for the permit for Building H, and it showed going right down to the south property line there. So the building department had those diagrams when they issued the permit for that. Yeah, I could take out, asphalt down at the south end, but nobody's gonna see the landscaping because I have 2 fences there side by side for that portion of it. So I'd like to continue to have the variance for the screening on the south side because of that dog-eared fence down along there, for the landscape portion of it. In talking with Mr. Wood, when one of the neighbors had complained when he was doing the clearing on his residential piece next door, that's when he installed the dog-eared fence all the way around his property. And that wraps around also onto the west side of the storage units also. That's the area along the west property line, but down at the south end, that dog-eared fence wraps around that corner and comes up about to the south, about halfway between the south property line and Building G. So this is the area where the landscaping has become a question. You can see in the picture right there, they had called for utility locate. We've got an electric line buried right along that property line. We've got a gas line that's not seen right here, but it's sprayed up against that, between the red flags and the building itself. So what they're trying to do is to find a way to get the appropriate side type 2 that's required along that property line installed, but right now it's trying to find a contractor that's willing to work between the gas and the electric to install it is a problem. But, if it's required that we have it, they'll just have to go out and basically hand dig carefully to get those landscaping requirements in there. And they've done what they said they were going to do out in front right there. And when they turn the corner to come around this west side for the landscaping on that side, that's when the guy said, we don't want to even get involved because of the utilities located in that area. Those 2 buildings right there are climate controlled, so they have gas up to them as well as electric.
All right, so Terry, I wanna step back and do these kind of one by one.
Okay.
Right?
Perfect.
And so number 5 is what you were saying was a variance that was already given, right?
That was number 6.
No, number 6 was one that was already
6
satisfied.
is the foundation landscaping.
that's
That's
the
been
foundation.
completed,
That's-
and we
yeah,
don't
that's
need
been
that
satisfied.
variance.
5 is your front, oh, I'm sorry, not.
5 is the front and side yards.
4 is the setback, I'm sorry, number 4. I wrote
4
down
is that rear yard that the building department issued that permit.
Okay, and that's what you're saying is a variance that was already given for.
It wasn't a variance. That was shown on the site plan when they went to get the building
So
permit.
which? Building department approved it.
That
I
would be
understand.
Building
All right,
H.
so let's go with Building B, right?
Okay,
Because I
yes.
think we jumped around everywhere.
Okay.
And there was a variance that.
That was granted
we
a couple
have in here
years
that
ago,
was
yes.
granted, right? So this is the variance that we have where it says the setback is 13.83 feet where 14 was approved, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the setback, the north front setback was 29 foot where 35 foot was approved.
Well, and also on the variance petition, we had stated that as a 40-foot required. When the finance company had petitioned to get a zoning letter from the county, they indicated that that front yard setback is 35 feet. So with that conflict there, if it is 35 feet for the front yard setback, this front building A only violates the front yard setback by 0.4 of a foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but you're saying that we have all of this information, and I've looked through my entire packet, I don't have it in here.
Well, I found a couple things, but I'm not positive what they're referring to. About 2/3 of the way back, an email from Abby, copying to whoever Custom Dave 7 is, copying Ryan and Randy James. per our conversation this morning, because the building was constructed at a side west setback of 13.83, this is obviously talking about building A, or one of the two building As, not building B, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Number one, we've.
Because A is actually two buildings, two narrow buildings sideways, right?
No, A is the north building,
A is
and there's, B is the existing building that was 4 foot off, and then they added to that, but they slid over to comply with the setback. That's why there's a jog in that west side of the building B.
I would say let's just go numerically, because I think that would be easier.
With what?
Numerically, I mean, from one down. One, we've recommended approval,
Okay,
right? Two, a west setback of 4 feet where 20 is required. You're saying that a variance was granted for that?
Marbach Brady prepared a variance petition about 2 or 3 years ago when Craig Anthony first told these guys that there was a problem out there.
Are you sure that wasn't for 14 feet where
Well,
20 is
That's what it
required?
is, though.
well, hang on. On the first page of last month's petition on this item, third paragraph, though 14 feet was requested, staff's recommendation for the side west setback was 8 feet to be consistent with the 2015 final site plan.
And then they said, it's cool, we'll just build it to 14.
Yeah, but here's
that's
the
what was-
problem. 8 feet was on the 2015 final site plan, but the building's only 4.
And that's the building that was already there prior to the north
But-
part
but
of
not-
Building B.
But misrepresented on the as-bills.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's why I keep getting hung up.
But I think this petition, I mean, the way that I read this variance in this petition was that this was for the initial building. It was not for their extension, right? 'Cause
Do we have a problem with building B, or are we just talking about the two building As, or 1 and 2, if we want to look at them that way?
Okay, so
we're getting,
one, we had recommended approval of. Two, 4 feet of where 20 feet is required. And in our conversations last meeting, we could have advertised that. And 14 feet is allowed, Brandy, really, because that's what was originally granted by the BCA. 3, we've recommended approval of, right, Kylie? That's the reduced setback along the eastern property line.
Yes, because that one met it as well.
And then, consistent with the site plans that we've had on file showing 10 feet.
Yes, or I believe it was 8.
And then we come to building, I think, H, which is that rear middle one of 16 where 20 is required. Now, Terry, you were saying, like, it was shown on the site plan submitted. And are you saying the site plan submitted as the application for the building permit, or that it was shown on a site plan for the submittal of a different building?
when you sent me the request for information response back, in there was a copy of the building permit, and there was a site plan that showed that building setting 10 feet off of that south property line.
all right, so I don't have that.
That's not correct.
It's on building H.
Which is what I
Let
was
me,
trying
let me
to
look
find.
here real quick. It was for Building H, yes.
So what I have on file is a revised final site plan that was signed off on in 2015 that showed that building at 20 feet. I'm not contesting, I'm just, yep, thanks. Okay.
Contractor and shows that 10 foot.
Thank you.
Okay. So the building department had approved that location when they issued the permit for that, and that was the way it was shown on the site plan for that south property line. So I don't think item 4 should have to be addressed, being the, or if you want to grant it, it would make it legal to satisfy the lender.
Yeah, it's non-conforming,
So,
under, I mean, if we can demonstrate that a building permit was granted based on the information that was presented to the property owner, then it can operate under the non-conforming regs.
okay.
Or be granted the variance to be legalized. Brandy?
I think legal non-conforming status would not satisfy the lender, if I had to guess.
Yeah, she needs a mic.
I don't think legal non-conforming status would be enough to satisfy the lender, would be my guess on that.
I think the lender's going to require a variance for it, even though it's, because technically it does not comply, even though it's a non-conforming use.
Can I see that?
Can I see that? Abby?
Sorry, Brandy requested to see it too.
I was first.
Did all you guys read today's? The letter that came today?
No.
Because that answered my questions on why is this just coming up now?
Thank you, Shelley.
Which building are we looking at here? Oh, that does look like it says 10 feet there.
Yeah.
Terry,
Yes?
just some points of clarification. Did you say the property to the east is owned by the Wood family?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And you also mentioned that they're going to widen the highway from
Yes.
Ash Road over to Beach or
To-
Birch?
To Birch is where it currently
And how
tapers.
is that going to affect this property as is? What would it do to the front of that property?
Well, currently the road is 2-lane wide. It will
Right.
be 4 lanes
Right,
all the way down through there, so it'll push the pavement up closer to the front of the buildings there.
but it won't affect any, how about there's some utility, is there a
Utilities are out there also. Those will probably have to be shifted back to their new right-of-way line location.
When does this take,
When the county
Whenever.
has money,
yeah? And would the lender, well, maybe you can't answer, would the lender want to know that?
if there was a right-of-way take, it would have been shown in the title work, Bob. So at this point, they probably have acquired right-of-way already. So it would have been shown on that Alta survey that we submitted as part of our site plan.
So, looking at
Right.
this building permit, it's not for that building.
It's not?
No.
For
This
which
appears, the building that we are concerned with right now related to the 10-foot rear, is that right? 10-foot rear?
That's Building H,
Yeah,
right.
building H. This appears to be for building C. Building H is on here and does say proposed building, but the actual building permit part, this part, refers to square footage that matches building C, not
Okay.
building H.
Then the owner got me the wrong copy of the wrong permit. But that is the site plan that was used for H.
Sometimes how buildings are classified is confusing. They'll show new building, and that will be what the permit is for. And then they'll show proposed building, and that's proposed at a future date. And this isn't just been this circumstance. I've seen this elsewhere too.
But that wouldn't even make sense here because it would have already been existing.
Correct. Based on the dates that we saw that it pop into the aerial, that was like 2002, and the building permit that Brandy's holding is from 2004.
For H?
And then the
Your-
dimensions of
Your
the,
note, your note on here says it was certificate of occupancy was given 2001.
correct, yep, and it showed an aerial in 2002, yep.
And this permit
And you
says
just said 2004,
That's
so,
what this says.
oh, for that one there, okay, I'm
So
sorry.
That would make sense,
Yep.
because C was 2005.
And then the dimensions of the building on the site plan are for 42 by 115. That's 48,000, or 4,830, that's what this permit's for.
That looks like it would be for building C,
Yes.
Yep.
The
So-
permit is for building C.
right, but the site plan was for building H.
We don't have any way to verify that, though.
Not on me right now.
Okay.
I'm going to take these one by one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
We're
we're-
not doing these all.
Right.
Does anybody else got any more questions? Donnie, you've been awful quiet.
Just trying to take it all in and listen.
Kind of make sure, yeah.
Does anybody else got any questions?
When they submitted this, and they went for the vote.
Yeah.
Which one are you looking at?
Well, it says right there, it's only 21 feet. What's the building, don't they understand about 40?
What is your, why are you so mad at the building?
I'm not mad at the building department, it says right there 40
Just
though.
trying to recreate the crime,
Well, and it's hard to do 22 years later.
no question. Well, and there's one place that says so many feet, and then,
Yeah.
and then again, on August petition, something's referred to
This is,
the west setback of 20 to 14 feet, yet we're asking for 4, and I don't,
that's not what they would have.
it just doesn't make any sense.
Right, there's one that just done, I was just getting that.
Yeah, that's not the one that was submitted.
Okay, so how do you want to do this?
Slowly.
Do you still have to do the public hearing?
Well, we still
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
okay.
we still got
Procedure.
other stuff to
Okay.
do. Okay, does anybody else have any questions for the petitioner? No, okay. Thanks, Terry. All right, now we're gonna open this up to the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward. See none. Is there anybody on Zoom?
They didn't see it.
See none. Is there anybody that would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward. See none. Well, you've already gotten the letter, so we don't have to read it. Right. Is there any, what? Is
And
there
then-
anybody that would like to speak against this petition, please? Or on Zoom, I'm sorry.
No.
See none, public portion is closed. There is a letter that you have. And this is, I don't know, it's kind of back and forth. Some in favor, some not in favor. There was no public input, so there's actually no rebuttal now, right?
I mean, he gets his 5 minutes.
Okay, well, you got 5 minutes if you want to talk, Terry.
Well, I have nothing additional. I thought if you guys had anything additional, I would volunteer my time for that.
The board, did you make any recommendations?
Well, so one's approval, two's
I had the same question for staff.
choose denial, right?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Bree's approval.
I'm asking the staff, did they,
Kylie, would you go through your recommendation
Yeah.
from last month?
Yes, staff is recommending denial, or I'm so sorry, approval of the first variance due to the practical difficulty in the property because it is slightly angled. Number 2 is recommending denial because it will significantly impact the western neighbor. Number 3 is approval because we were able to, as we mentioned earlier, find in the minutes that we originally recommended 8-foot setbacks as staff, so 11 feet obviously is greater than that, so we have no problem with that. 4, recommending denial. That also has been evident that it would significantly impact the southern neighbor, and there was no previous evidence that we were able to find as staff on the final site plan showing any recommendation. And number 5 and number 6 were also denial, but number 6 has since been satisfied.
And I will just clarify, number 5 is partially addressed. It's not entirely, they still need a variance, but I believe that they've added the landscaping where they feel they're able to. Is that correct, Terry?
Correct, yes.
Yes, the east perimeter has been satisfied, as the south because of the privacy fence. I'm so sorry, the west has been satisfied with type 2 landscaping. The north and east will remain unlandscaped if the variance is granted.
Terry, would you withdraw number 6, or?
I
Are
I
you
can
still
formally
requesting it?
withdraw item number 6 from the petition, if that makes it easier for the legal staff then. But I still think that item, on that south setback on number 4, with that site plan that had been submitted, it shows that the county was aware of that setback requirement, or that that was the intended location for that building to be located, and that's where it was constructed.
Unfortunately, we don't have anybody here for that, nor do we have copies of all that, and,
Well, and that was why I pulled it out and gave it to the staff.
all right, does anybody else got anything? Nope, 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 nope. Okay, thanks, Terry.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna go through these one at a time. So I will, if nobody else has any questions for staff, I will take a motion on variance number 1.
What's happening here?
This is the,
No, these two. Is your girls' discussion with regard to variance 1?
No, sir, it isn't.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so with regard to variance 1, it's the north, so we're talking about building 1. It's
Yes,
not-
building A.
technically not built yet, or is built?
It has been built.
Okay,
It can
every
be
one of these
seen
buildings are built.
okay.
on this site plan.
I saw a lot of different pictures, so, okay. In lieu of Joe not being here, Mr. Chairman? I would like to make the motion that with regard to variance 1, to allow front north yard setback of 34 feet where a minimum of 40 is required.
Just
be
a second. I want to make sure, Mr. Feeney, do you want them to see that one piece of paper that cannot be connected with that building permit in any way, but does show what you wanted them to see? Do you want them to have that before they make their decision, or
Well,
The zoning letter that the county had supplied to the lender's surveyor for this showed that that building A only sits over the setback line by 4/10 of a foot. So the variance from, we had originally thought it was a 40-foot front yard setback, but it's a 35.
No, I meant about building H. The plan that you gave us and we looked at it and we said that it didn't go with the building permit that you handed us. Do you want them to see that before they make their
Oh,
decision or not?
Certainly, yeah.
didn't we
The
determine that it
problem
was,
is there's no permit to go with it.
Right, yes.
and it doesn't,
If he wants you to see it, I want you to have it even though.
okay, so notwithstanding that, I would like to make the motion that with regard to variance 1, to allow a front north yard setback of 34 feet where a minimum of 40 is required, that we approve that as written.
I'll second that.
All right, a motion and a second.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Roush?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes. Brandy, do you want me to read this after every single one, or can I just do all of the yeses and their numbers and all of the nos and their numbers, or do you want?
I
me-
think that would be okay.
All right. Okay. Petition number 2. I will take a motion for petition number 2.
Variance two,
Variance.
Or
petition one.
variance 2, I'm sorry, variance
I
2.
have a question.
Yeah.
With regard to this particular variance,
Okay.
we're talking about building B, correct? The one that was built in 2015? Yes or no?
The way that it's written,
It would just be a general variance on the property.
Yeah, it's the property.
but you can, I mean, and Brandy would need to clear, or to affirm this, but specify it for that specific building. Could that be a condition? That it's not applying to the entire property line
I mean, it could be
to legalize that specific
tied
building?
to the present status of all of the buildings, but I don't think you could get more specific than that.
So no new buildings could be petitioned for
Right, it would be
less
based
than that. It would
on
be those, that approval would be
the
for the
currently
buildings.
existing
Correct,
site
okay.
plan.
I'm good with that.
All right, but here's the thing, this site plan has no scale, no north arrow, no nothing that the building department would want
I'm not
that you would have
saying
to
that
use
it's a
to
wonderful thing to
turn
make a
this in.
decision on about variance number
has-
4, but I just wanted, if the petitioner wanted you to have it and see it so that you could take it into account, I did not want that to be an appealable issue.
See that? So, we can't use that for, I mean, building department wouldn't be able to use that for anything, it doesn't have all the information on it. Okay, I'll take a petition, or,
A motion.
motion, golly. I'll take a motion for
Variance.
variance number
2,
2.
yes.
I told you my brain wasn't working right now.
And if the intention of whoever makes the motion is that, yes, approve, but only based on the current site plan, my recommended phrasing would be approval tied to the present site plan.
Well, I guess with the knowledge that we need a second, I'm going to say it. Mr. Chairman, given the fact that we see a lot of ambiguity with regard to the facts on this one, on variance number 2, and a lot of different numbers that we can't substantiate, and possible oversight by a whole bunch of different parties. That being said, given the obvious proximity to the property line, I would argue and make the motion that we deny variance number 2 allowing a west side yard setback of 4 feet where a minimum of 20 is required.
Need a second?
Donnie Ritzman, I'll second.
Can I have one question before you vote? Because you have two buildings that are currently at 14 feet, and you're basically asking for it to be 20, so they're going to end up
Well,
cutting
the
off.
variance already exists for the 14 feet. That
Oh,
would
okay.
not be affected
That's-
here.
Okay, I just wanted to make
The
sure.
problem is that the variance was for 14, not 4 before.
Okay. Okay, then you're going to make him cut back more into the building than what the existing variance was granted for? Because you're telling him it has to be at 20.
No,
If
the
you-
existing variance is not going to be affected by this. There's a variance in place that says
Okay.
14 feet is allowed.
So, okay, so that should read 14 foot?
So I would
Instead of
amend my
required 12.
motion to say 14 feet, therefore, so the property's consistent.
That's, because you're not being consistent if you don't say all those buildings should be 14 then.
Say that again, I'm confused now.
The way the variance is written, the fact that it says a minimum of 20 feet is sort of an oversight, given the fact that 14 feet has already been allowed. So I'm amending my motion to say 14 feet.
Okay.
In
That's fine.
essence, that 4 is not okay.
Well, in that case, you would need to approve a variance of 14 feet, not just,
I thought it already was.
It is already.
It is.
I'm aware of that, but how exactly does that affect your motion? I guess I'm getting really confused. If you just deny this one,
The
it stays
motion
14
was
feet.
written incorrectly. No, the variance was written incorrectly.
It's not necessarily written incorrectly. The ordinance requires 20. The variance that is in place is for 14. It could have expanded and said where 20 feet is required and 14 feet is allowed.
Perfect.
Okay, so make a new motion, please, if you're not gonna stand with the 20-foot.
I move that variance
No.
number 2, allowing a side west yard setback of 4 feet where a minimum of 20 feet was originally required, but 14 has been allowed, be denied.
I don't think there's a legal difference between that and what you did before, but okay.
And the fact that I'm moving that it be denied.
No, you moved that it be denied before.
Denied it to begin with.
Right.
Motion for denial, right?
So the motion is for denial,
Yes.
correct? Okay. Variance number 2, motion has been made for denial.
And
Of
he has
variance
since
number
amended
2.
it, but that would require the second to approve the amendment.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
No.
Mr. Roush?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes. All right, on to variance number 3.
I'll make a motion to Donnie Ritzma approve the variance number 3.
Second that. Rob Hawley.
Okay, motion and a second.
Mr. Roush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
No. Number 4?
Lance Roush, I would like to make the motion that we approve number 4 as written.
Sid Schaefer, I'll second that.
Okay, a motion and a second.
Mr.
Shelley?
Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma,
No.
Mr. Roush,
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier.
No,
That one failed.
Yep,
it did fail.
that failed, so the opposite motion should be next.
I'll make a motion that we deny variance number 4.
Donnie. So since this is the second motion, I can technically second this, correct?
I think so, yes.
Okay. DJ Tavernier, I'll make a second.
Mr. Roush,
No.
Mr. Hawley,
Yes,
Mr. Ritzma,
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier.
Yes,
pass.
it did pass. Number 5.
Just clarification from the site plan, or from when the legal was run, it is required front yard and side yard landscaping to currently provide it on site. They've submitted a new landscaping plan to you that was included in your packet this month.
Abby, is that this?
Yes.
Yeah, that.
It's the one that's on the overhead here.
Oh, sorry. Do you have something to?
No, I was just
clarify?
saying it's up on the overhead if they're.
And just a reminder, the north and east perimeters have not been satisfied by this plan, but the west and south have.
This was the plan for 5. Yes, for number 5.
So if you all went the route of approving the variance, it wouldn't be for what is existing on site. I would recommend, if you're going that route, the landscaping as shown on the site plan submitted.
Come forward with a recommendation?
That's not a recommendation, that's just clarifying the legal,
Somebody needs to make a motion, yeah.
Oh, okay.
that's just clarifying how to word the variance, depending on how you go.
Say that again, Abby, sorry.
What she's saying is if you were to grant the variance specifically as it was written, that would be the landscaping from what state it was in at the last meeting. And they have both upgraded it and provided you a plan with presumably maybe a little bit more than what's already there, because I haven't got to it yet. So she's saying you should, if you are inclined to approve it, you should approve it a
As well.
variance from the required landscaping to the landscaping on their proposed plan. Because that's more than what they had before.
We're good with that, yes.
Thank you.
I can't make a motion unless you guys don't, and we're getting pretty close to that.
Hold on, I'm making my notes
No,
down.
not you, he was looking at me.
Sid Schaefer, I make a motion, we accept number 5 as written with the diagrams they gave us.
So to clarify, your motion is to approve a variance from the required landscaping to the landscaping on their provided plan.
Correct.
Okay.
What's been updated?
To the provided plan as of today's date, September 14th.
Lance Roush, second.
Just to clarify, you guys are approving what's been updated, correct? Okay.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Roush?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes. Number 6 has been withdrawn, correct?
Correct.
Gary, you formally withdraw that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great.
All right, so we don't need to do anything on number 6. All right, so. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, grants a variance 1, 3, and 5, with 5 being granted on today's date of September 14th, 2022, with the site plan that was provided. And will issue written findings of the facts. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning and Appeals, after careful consideration, denies variance 2 and 4, and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you.
That was a marathon.
Need a drink. Number 2 has been withdrawn. Number 3, please.
Location 11845 River Drive. Theodore and Linda Zulitsky. Requested action. Variance number 1, from section 154.107 sub C, 1, to allow 11-foot front north yard setback where a minimum of 25 feet is required for an existing shed. Number 2, from section 154.107 sub C, 2, to allow a 5-foot side west yard setback where a minimum of 8 foot is required for an existing shed. And number 3, from section 154.070 sub C D, to allow a 6-foot fence with less than 70% open space in the front yard where a maximum of 3 feet is allowed. Zoning R Single Family District, County.
This is Kylie Abrams again, Area Plan Commission staff. Staff is recommending denial of the requested variances. The petitioner is seeking to legalize an improperly constructed fence and shed that does not meet setback and fence development standards for this district. Here's the provided site plan showing the existing shed and fence built into the right-of-way. Although the septic field does limit the placement of the shed, there's still room in the center of the property and next to the house. Here's a photo showing the property and the existing shed. Here's the existing fence. As you can see from the photo, the petitioner's shed is not out of character for this area, as the neighbor to the west shed is even closer to their property line. Here's looking west. And looking east, this photo also demonstrates other non-conforming structures along River Drive. And on to the criteria. Approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Approval of this existing shed would not be injurious. Many other garages and sheds in the immediate area do not meet setback standards, and this shed would not block line of sight. Approval of the existing fence, however, could potentially be injurious to public health and safety. The fence is built slightly into the right-of-way and could block line of sight for the other neighbors. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Approval of the existing shed would not affect the adjacent area. As you can see, the shed is very in character for this area and only improves the value of the home. Approval of the existing fence could potentially affect the use of nearby properties by, again, blocking line of sight. And finally, the strict application of the terms of this chapter would result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. There are no practical difficulties in the use of this property. As seen on the provided site plan, there are other locations in which the shed could have been placed, and a 3-foot privacy fence is not necessary for the use of this property. And I'll take any questions. I'm sorry, a 6-foot privacy fence.
Donnie, you good? Terry?
Terry Lang from Lang, Feeney, the Whiteman team. Our address is 715 South Michigan Street in South Bend. I represent the petitioners, the Zaluskis. I won't go into the full length. Linda had put together kind of a history of what happened in a letter, and that was part of the petition that had been submitted. Kind of gives the history of the property. Linda and her husband had worked with the contractor to coordinate putting up a shed and a fence there. The property located on the river, and there probably was a little bit of confusion, along the river side of the property is considered a front yard. In fact, the Osceola ordinance is written that way, in that fashion. So there, a little bit of a misunderstanding what was considered front yard and rear yard for that setback portion of it. As you see on the site plan portion of it, the septic system kind of sits smack dab in the middle of the property back there. So the position was set as if it was a rear yard and tried to fit it in between the septic and the fence that was there. And that's the position that they had agreed for the location of. And then Ted got sick, and all kinds of health issues transpired, which is in the letter right there. The contractor thought that they were pulling the permit. They thought that the contractor was pulling the permit for it. And the construction took place in the location that you see right there. And when you look at the photos there that was shown previously, it's a nice looking yard shed right there. And it's perfectly on line with the location of, hold that picture right there, please. You can see the shed right there immediately adjacent is at the same setback, and it's even sits closer to the property line for the shed location. If you go back to the other picture, you'll also see further down, you'll see a garage that sits right at the setback, right at the right-of-way line, and there's a house just beyond that van that you see that sits right at that setback line. If you look at the picture that goes the opposite direction, looking east, you'll see that there's a garage there and also a house that's set back at that right-of-way line also. So the shed location is not any more of an inconvenience than what the two houses are, the two garages, and we line up with the existing shed that's there for the location of the shed. The fence location, at that location, there were originally two fences there. And one was a chain link fence and one was not a stockade, a split rail fence. And the owners decided they wanted to take that down and put up more of a privacy fence right there. And they put the fence right in the exact same location of where the old two fences were sitting side by side in that location, for that. So the fence that you see, I know it's not complying, and if it would need to be moved out of the right-of-way, they're willing to have the fence moved out of the right-of-way portion of it, because your line of sight is blocked by the garage in each direction and the houses on each side from that also. So we're asking for it to be, the shed to stay in that location, as well as the fence can stay in that location if it's shortened up so that it is not in the right-of-way at that location. Now, the petitioner had went around to all of the neighbors out there and asked them if they had any opposition to this. And I have 3 pages of signatures that I would like to submit from.
Do they identify name and address? Okay.
These are all of the neighbors along that stretch of River Avenue, and they are in favor of both petitions for the fence and the shed locations. There's over 20 signatures there from everybody along that street right there. And as you've seen in the pictures right there, the Lazuski's home is very well maintained. The shed is not just a half put-together shed. It's in very good shape, well maintained, and they'd like to keep them where they're at, with the exception of pulling the fence, out of the right-of-way. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
The contractor that they had, was he licensed in St. Joseph County?
Yes.
And he thought that, when was the fence put up?
The fence has been, I don't know if that was listed in the letter.
I believe he told me when he came in to apply for the variance that it was put up in April.
April.
So
Prior
he-
to the fence permit?
Well, and
Well,
the fence
it
ordinance
was-
changed also, that requires a permit in April also, if I'm
It
not
was April
mistaken.
1st.
No ordinance changes were made. We always had the authority under the zoning ordinance to require a permit for fences. In light of some of the issues that you were all seeing after fences were installed improperly, we made the administrative decision to start requiring a permit effective April 1st.
Okay.
So a lot of the contractors were unaware of that administrative change there, so,
There was an email that went out, because I
You
got
were?
it. Yeah.
Okay.
I got it, because I
but
smiled when I saw it.
I didn't get one, so I didn't know that it took place, so
No,
anybody.
there was an email.
So- So yeah, if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Like I say, all of the neighbors, all 20, everybody along that street signed that petition, are the property owners there.
Those are the only questions I had. Anybody else?
I'm not clear, Terry, on what you said regarding they're willing to make some changes in that fence that you see there?
If you go to the fence picture, the next, right there,
Yeah.
the fence sticks out into the right-of-way there,
Right.
and technically, that's not allowed. You're not allowed to have a fence in the right-of-way. We would like to trim that back so that it's out of the right-of-way in compliance with the county highway department then.
So the fence is just where that yellow line is?
Correct, yes.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted to verify.
But Terry, just to clarify, so you're saying you'll remove it, get it out of the right of way, but you're not proposing to bring it into compliance with the zoning? You're still requesting the height?
We'd
variance?
like to keep that height. The house next door is a rental unit, and they're not the best neighbors, so that was the reason why they upgraded the fence in that fashion.
So, Randy, I guess then clarification on what he's saying about get it out of the right of way. That would, on our end, if we're wanting to approve the variance, it would be under the condition that they get it out of the right of way?
That would be my recommendation, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because your recommendation right now is denial, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, denial for all 3.
Right.
Anybody else got any questions?
Yeah, if that's the front, if that's the backyard, why do they call it front yard?
Our zoning ordinance defines the front lot line as any line on a public right-of-way or an access.
Just a little clarification from staff's perspective, okay? So we oftentimes have healthy debate, even amongst the staff, when we're reviewing petitions. And we are looking at the 3 criteria. Kylie, get there for me, please. Will it be injurious? Mr. Lane has submitted a petition from the neighbors stating they're not opposed. Will it negatively affect the area adjacent? Number 3 is oftentimes where we as staff might differ from you, because when we are looking at what practical difficulties there are, we are looking to see if there's space within the lot that it could be placed meeting the requirements of the ordinance. Kylie, could you go back to the site plan for me? So you all might say, from your perspective, that there is a practical difficulty in that it's on a street, on a lot, or on the river. The front and the rear yards are different in that respect, right? We're seeing the septic, the house, and area that exists sufficient to place the shed elsewhere, and that is where our recommendation is coming from. We have to say yes, yes, and yes to all 3 of the criteria in order to give you a positive recommendation.
But that's where we come
Yes.
I mean, technically speaking, you also have to get to yes, yes, and yes on
Yes.
those criteria. You might have a different opinion on whether it meets a yes or not as to one of them, but you do have to get there.
Correct. Next month, when you approve findings of fact for the cases from the prior months, you're saying, like Brandy said, and I said, yes, yes, and yes. So if you disagree with our interpretation of the ordinance in saying that there's sufficient area elsewhere to locate the shed, then you have to say what practical difficulty you think there is in not being able to meet the requirements of the ordinance.
And it's best for me if you do say it out loud.
The superstar, and I hate to do this to you all, but the superstar of doing that on the board is Joe, right?
100%.
He'll say, and I feel that adequate practical difficulty is met because of X. Or I feel like it will not adversely impact the surrounding area because of X.
Okay, does anybody else got any questions for Terry?
Bring the public
Thank
on.
you. Yeah. All right, we'll open it up to the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward. See none. Any on Zoom? See none. Is there anybody that would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward. See none. Any on Zoom?
No.
See none. Anybody else got anything for Terry? Or I'll take a motion.
Lance Roush, with regard to variance 1, one at a time, right?
Don't have to be.
With
If you
regard
want to
to
do the same thing for all of them, you're allowed to do them all at once. But
With regard to variance 1 only, although there would technically be practical difficulty in the placement of the shed, I would argue that along river and/or lakefront property, There are specific circumstances that kind of turn all of that around, and with regard to all of the other structures being in that same area, and the fact that it is off of the side property line, I move that we approve variance number 1 as written.
Donnie Ritzma, I will second.
Okay.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Roush?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
No, we gotta do two?
Yes. We're doing them individually.
We're doing them individually. So you're gonna do the same for two?
You did this. Lance Roush, given evidently the exact same argument for variance number 1, I suggest that we approve variance number 2.
Was that a motion or a suggestion?
It's a motion.
Sid Schaefer, I'll second that.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Roush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes.
Three foot is allowed.
3 foot is allowed.
3 foot is allowed in front and back, or just allowed anywhere?
No, in the, oh,
In the little bit
Fronts,
between the
yes.
right of way and the.
To clarify, for a privacy fence with the amount of open space on the property, or as shown on the property, 3 feet is allowed within the front yard setback,
Backyard.
or the minimum area, it's a front lot line.
This is the backyard wall.
this is the front yard to the
Technically.
county
Oh, front yard of the county.
because of the
The
road.
road. Gotcha.
But our fence regs apply to the front yard or the minimum area between the front lot line of the house and the property line. So really, anything between the house and the property line couldn't exceed 3 feet in height. Let me give you the exact language.
I'm trying to figure out how to word this.
Located in a minimum front yard or in the buildable area of a lot between the front lot line of the primary building and the minimum front yard. So in front of the house, the eastern facade and the front property line, which is along river, the fence height couldn't exceed 3 feet for the amount of open space that the fence has. Kylie, can you show me the photo? Yep.
So from here to here is the back of the house. It's the front, according to the road. Yes. But not according to the road. Be more than.
The entire fence couldn't be,
Can't be more than 3 feet.
the way that portion of the ordinance is written for this lot. But what we're looking to do with bad blood between neighbors there in the rental house, we're looking to do the 6 foot and go at least as far as the shed portion of it right there, the way, and then obviously the part taken out that would be in the right of way.
So from here to here can only be 3 feet. here to here to be 6 foot, or from here to here to be 6 foot.
Correct.
This has to go away, because it's in the right of way.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. I understand the right of way. I was just trying to figure out that
I'm having chest pains.
with the, with
I have Malox.
rear yard issue. On the river with the front yard and rear yard issue, you're only allowed 3 foot the whole way anyhow?
That's the way it's written because of the way that they're saying the front yard is.
Technically, you could have 6,
You
On the
can
other
give a
side.
Bearing, yes,
And,
yes.
and
You could have
which would
6
make
in
no
the front
sense,
yard?
right?
it wouldn't make any sense to put a 6
You could have
foot
6
out on the
backyard.
river because you're looking to see the view on the river.
This is the backyard,
No,
but it's the front yard due because of the road.
technically, it's the front yard.
We're talking ordinance definitions, not like common sense.
Right.
And let me
Right.
tell you, most laws, ordinances, they don't make sense. They write them the way they do because it keeps terms consistent, not because it necessarily makes sense that way.
I'm glad you said that, not me.
In this case, to keep the terminology the same, a front yard borders on a right-of-way, basically. Because that happens in this case, it's a front lot line.
An existing or dedicated public
This is
Hey,
the
Terry,
front yard,
I have a
this is
question.
the even though on the river
I should add this earlier, but I just seen that the photo is now seen as, the 6 feet is only just this small portion of this wooden portion of the fence, correct? Is there an existing fence further down the side
Well,
property
you can,
line?
you can see the fence that was replaced goes all the way down that, halfway down that west side.
Yeah, halfway down.
And that's
Not
the
all
part
the
they're
way down.
saying can't be 6 foot is what they're saying. So if you've got neighbors that don't get along, I can't put up a fence, so I don't have to look at them.
It can only be 3 feet because of, yes. So what they're asking for is 6 foot, right? They're asking for the variance for it to go from 3 foot to 6 foot, from where it is to the right of way. The stuff that's
And
in
that part in the
right
right of way be removed.
has to go. I mean, or it could stay there. You could issue the variance for it to stay there, right?
Well, the variance does not allow the fence to be in the road right of way. That has to come out.
Okay,
That's
so it's
not
gotta
right.
come out, no matter
This
what.
could go all the way, the whole length of the
Technically,
property.
from the house, Abby just said, from the house all the way to the right of way, because of the ordinance, right?
Yes, because of the way front lot line is
Because of the way that
defined.
it's written,
Right.
it can only be,
By
3
right, they
feet
could run it
tall.
all the way into the water.
Right, but it's
They don't
only
wanna do that.
partially.
right, so that's what they need the variance for, to keep that spot right there, this,
40 feet or whatever it is.
no, it says the entire thing's 70 feet.
But
So
his
I'd probably say
justification for
60 feet,
The justification for replacing it at the 6 feet was to,
because they
because,
don't like their neighbors.
but it's only partial. Their neighbor is still shown. Past that's,
House, it's a house.
The rest of that's all house
Yeah,
there.
it's all house.
When you go back to the aerial, you'll see the house
Hey, don't shoot
is
the messenger.
the next 60 feet.
I'm having heart palpitations over here, man.
I know CPR.
He's gonna jump across the-
Terry better know CPR.
That I know
Are you good, Donnie?
no, because on the side there, it looks like there's already a 3-foot
Go
fence.
back,
There is a
Shelley, could you
chain
go
link
back to the
fence.
picture that shows that?
And it looks dumb.
West property
now
line
having a
shot.
jotted up 6-foot section.
Oh, I understand.
So
can see
I get it.
from here, the house is all the way along that side, and you get down about the last 25 foot on the river. So we're looking to keep this 6 foot all the way along here, and when we get to the right of way, cut
Yeah.
that small section off that's in the right of way.
I understand that. I just,
The aesthetics of it work.
But it doesn't say that, as item number 3.
I think we would need to interject that to a potential motion. Correct?
I misunderstood. I thought that they were trying to keep the section that's in the right of way. They're not, which is what I thought. It would have had to have come out anyways,
Yeah, that,
right?
and
So,
I
so
agree
from the
with that.
right of way, which is, and this is speculation, right? Because I don't have a ruler on me. Probably 60 feet is what they're trying to keep as 6
As
foot.
exists, yeah.
Right,
Can you
as 6
throw
foot.
that picture up there again with, the part just close, there,
Yeah.
that one.
No.
Terry, go up there and say, you're gonna eliminate what?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Up to the shed.
20, 21, 22, 23,
Yeah.
24, 25,
Make it so
26.
you can see it while you're driving.
That'll be 3 foot high,
That'll be nothing.
Gone.
that'll be out altogether.
Altogether.
30
Okay.
times 5 inch.
Yeah.
So they're cutting off 12 foot 6 inches, because I just counted the spindles, or the pickets.
I'm fine with that.
Would they be able to continue this on?
Say that again, DJ.
Just leave the rest of it is what we're
The
proposing.
right-of-way,
Oh, could they
it
continue it on? to the
impedes
river?
into the right-of-way.
There's no-
12 foot,
no
6
plan to,
inches,
no.
According to those pickets that are there.
You don't want to block your view looking
One
down
thing
the
I
river
do want
either
to
way.
point out is if you are inclined to legalize the existing fence minus the piece in the right-of-way that you couldn't say is okay anyway, then my recommendation would be that any motion be approval tied to the site plan as it exists now, because you don't want them to like extend the fence further than it is, assuming it could go any farther.
Or you could
And
just
we
do
have
it
no
to where it's-
objection to that being tied to the site plan that was submitted, with the exception of the part in the right-of-way.
Regardless of what you all do with the fence, they're going to have to remove the section in the right-of-way,
The right-of-way has
period.
no bearing on this right now
Right, you don't
whatsoever.
even have to include it as a condition
Right.
because it just can't stay there.
Are you entertaining the motion?
What?
Are you
What?
entertaining a motion?
He has. We've already gone through 2.
Lance Roush, with regard to variance 3, allowing a 6-foot fence with less than 70% open space in the front yard where maximum 3 foot is allowed. I move that we approve that conditional on evening, not just the right-of-way portion, but bringing it back flush with the 2 sheds,
The right-of-way's
The
got
gate.
nothing to do with it.
okay? Then bringing the fence back to end at the chain link gate or the edge of the sheds, which appears to be the same thing.
My question is, would you be okay if they extended the fence back further all the way to the house? Because your motion would let them do that.
Absolutely.
You're okay with that?
Mhm.
Okay.
So now we can take it all the way to the house.
You can take it all the way to the water.
No, actually, they can't.
That's what I was.
They would be able to
That's the backyard.
regardless.
No.
Technically, it's backyard, you could.
It's the backyard, they can go to the property line.
There's a, no,
Under
isn't there,
the-
isn't
to-
there a front, isn't there a view for the, coming off of the river? Doesn't, we just talked about this.
Yeah. that's
You
what I
can't,
was
you
trying to
can't
find
say
out.
both of them are front. They've stated the front is the roadside. The back is going to be the riverside then, so
You can have
technically-
more than one front yard, so that's challenging, but the front lot line is an existing or dedicated is a boundary of a lot along an existing or dedicated public street. Or where no public street exists is along a public way.
So along the river too. That's a public way.
No.
We've always applied the front yard standard to.
To the road.
Yes, Terry, thank you.
And we're in agreement with that. So,
All you're saying is there's no back.
All right, so there's a motion to approve it.
Approve it with a condition to remove it, the section to the shed.
To the shed.
Bob Hawley will make a second to that motion.
Mr. Ritzma?
No.
Mr. Roush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
I guess I don't care either way. If they leave it to the right of way, or the so I'll say yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
No,
Okay.
Did fail?
it failed.
Okay.
Failed.
I make a motion that we deny variance number 3.
They still gotta whack it off. Oh, okay.
They have to remove the portion on the right-of-way anyways.
They gotta make it a 3-foot fence. That's what we're saying,
Mhm.
because it's the front yard. and we came to the conclusion there is no backyard.
You talking to
on the
yourself?
house.
Because I understand.
There is
A
no
motion's been
backyard.
made,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, they need a
Well,
second.
there is.
So I need a second.
Allow a 6-foot fence. 70% open space. Well, it died because we don't have a second.
There's actually no, what's the timeline? There's technically no timeline.
I mean, as far as how long you have to wait,
Yeah.
I don't believe there's a specific specified time that you have to wait for a second, but
Reasonable period of time, we might have to take a break.
I understand that the board's kind of in a caught with, but according to the way that the ordinance is written, it doesn't give any account for the fact that a home along the river is built way back, and I've got 100 foot to the house that I can't put up a privacy fence.
Not that I want to cut you off, but
No.
technically his
I understand.
portion is done, correct?
yes,
Yep.
Yeah, all right,
unless you have a question for him.
right. So I'm gonna, since this has failed twice, right, I can make a motion now, I assume? Well, we didn't, the
But if-
first one failed, the second one
I
never
would
got a
withdraw my
second, so
motion.
technically.
I mean, if it fails in both directions, then it essentially gets tabled.
Well, but there was no second, so we didn't actually have a secondary vote because nobody seconded
That
Donnie's.
is true.
So I can make a motion now,
You can make a
correct?
motion.
All right, I make a motion to approve the variance number 3 based off of the site plan that was given,
Tied to,
tied to the site plan that was given. So they cannot go any farther forward, they cannot go any farther backwards. The 6-foot fence has to stay exactly where the 6-foot fence is,
minus the right-of-way portion.
minus the right-of-way portion. Repeat that.
Donnie Ritzma, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Roush?
Sure.
Mr.
Yes-
Schaefer?
Yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes. All right. Based on the testimony presented here today, after careful consideration, all 3 variances have been granted, and we will issue written findings of the facts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 4, location 66465 Mulberry Road. Justin Matthew Rinky. Requested action, variance from section 154.092 sub D to allow a side north yard setback of 5 foot where 30 feet is required for a proposed accessory building. Zoning A agricultural district, county.
Carl Brown Grimm, Area Plan Commission staff. Staff recommends denial of the variance. The petitioner is seeking to build a 1,200 square foot accessory building approximately 5 feet from the north property line. This property is zoned agricultural. The petitioner is proposing to locate the accessory structure closer than the 30 required feet from the north property line to be more easily accommodated by a driveway and existing electric utility lines. Here's the proposed site plan. This is a view of the property from Mulberry Road. This is a view of the proposed area where the structure would be placed through the trees. Looking south on Mulberry Road, note the heavily agricultural character of the area. Looking north on Mulberry Road. This is a view of the property line between the petitioner's property and their neighbor to the north. These next 2 slides are images provided to us by the petitioner to show us where they would like to place the garage, highlighting the the proximity of the electric line, and then the existing driveway. Turning to straight criteria, approval would likely not be injurious. Any impact resulting from the accessory structure being constructed 25 feet closer to the side property line would be limited to the adjacent property to the north. The proposed structure would have little effect on the rest of the surrounding community. Approval would also likely not affect adjacent property values in any significant manner. Accessory structures, such as the one being requested, are in character for the heavily agricultural area. The area around the proposed structure is densely forested, and the adjacent property to the north will be naturally screened from view of the proposed structure. The use and value of adjacent properties will continue to remain the same. Staff finds that there are no practical difficulties in the use of the petitioner's property. Due to the property being slightly over 4.5 acres, with an excess of open space, as you could see on the site plan, ease of connecting a driveway and utilities do not constitute significant practical difficulty. Given the size and shape of the property, the petitioner would still have sufficient access and potential for a garage elsewhere on the property that could meet the development standards of the Ag District. And finally, you all should have received from Shelley in the packet a letter of remonstrance from the neighbor to the north at 66421 Mulberry. She's concerned about placing the garage close to her property line and stated the petitioner has plenty of other space on his property to place the structure. And I'll take any questions.
Good job, first of all. On the filed sheet, which I believe was done by the property owner or whoever submitted this, under project information, it references 5 feet versus the permitted 8 feet. Were they under the impression that 8 feet was permitted, or was it just a typo, or, okay?
I think they were under the impression that they were subject to the 8-foot single-family district site setback.
Sure. And you explained that that wasn't. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Nope.
Name and address in 10 minutes.
Thank you. Frank Augustino, 131 South Taylor Street. I'm the attorney representing Mr. Ranke. So if we get down to these 3 criteria, I think number 1 and number 2, the staff has already found that this variance could be approved for reasons 1 and reasons 2. It comes down to reason number 3 about practical difficulties. Currently, there is a gravel driveway. Mr. Ranke would like to put in a concrete driveway. The concrete driveway be at least $5 a square foot putting in there. The longer he has to go back to locate it someplace else and move it someplace else is going to be a practical difficulty in the cost of putting in that driveway. Also, he's going to have to connect this building up to electrical service. That electrical service would have to run from his current panel. It's not going to run from somewhere else. That's going to be another cost of running that electrical line to this accessory building, whether you move it around. The reason he wants it closer to the property line is when you look up the driveway, you can see that there's a row of trees there. He wants this to be concealed. Yeah, if we could leave it on this photo. He wants the shed to be concealed by the trees. If we move it to the 20 feet, and again, that was our mistake, if we have 8 feet on the application instead of 20, that was our typo then. But if he moves it to 20 feet, it's going to stick out outside of that tree line. And it sticks outside that tree line, it's his aesthetics. So, I mean, it's the petitioner's property. He would like it to look the way he wants it to, as long as it's not injurious to anyone else's other property. So that's why he's looking to have it within that line so it doesn't stick out. The practical difficulties of when he pours the concrete here, if he has to move it farther, behind the house then, because if that's going to stick out and instead of being more adjacent to the house here and running the electrical line to it, those are his practical difficulties. I'd also call your attention to it that there's a pre-existing pole barn on this property that is within the 20 feet, meaning that it's closer to the property line than 20 feet. It's a pre-existing and non-conforming use on this property. So in terms of being injurious to the neighbor, yes, the neighbor has complained about that, but there is an existing pole barn that already sits that close, at least 15 feet to the neighbor's property to the north. We appreciate the staff's time and their input on this, and we would answer any questions that the board might have, but again, we ask for approval of the petition because the first two criteria are met. The third criteria about the practical difficulties, there's a significant cost to move this around, and then it's really about the property owner having the right to place something on his property where it has the greatest aesthetical value to him. Thank you.
All right, so a couple things. It's 4.5 acres, right?
It is.
Okay. And you called this 1,200 square foot building a shed?
No,
That's
there's
what
an
you're classifying
existing,
it as?
no, there's an existing, we said it's an accessory building. You're talking
that's
about,
the pole
in the
barn
hand
she's talking
notations, you had the pole barn farther out. That's that other building.
So there's an existing shed on the property right now that it's, where this is going?
No.
No, that's the pole barn, right?
Existing one.
Okay,
And he'd like to put this closer here,
okay.
so when you come down the driveway, it doesn't have to extend the
I understand.
driveway all the way out here. And then you turn off here, and this is closer to running the electrical line.
Understand.
This one is at 15 feet. That's what's closer, it's closer to the one already.
Okay, but you just mentioned a shed. Somewhere in your, in your conversation that you just had with us, in your disclosure, right? At some point in time, you said shed, because I wrote it down with 2 question marks, so.
I'm not describing this accessory building as a shed. If that's what came across, I apologize to you,
Okay,
but I'm not
that's what
describing it as a
How
shed.
many garage doors is this gonna have?
This would have two. Right,
2 garage doors? Okay. Plumbing?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Heating?
Again, no, it's,
So just electrical?
Mhm.
Okay. And if you can find somebody to do concrete for $5 a foot, give me their name and number before you leave. It's gotta be 2, yeah.
And get it done.
Yeah, all right, I'm good.
Again, to clarify, the code's not 20 feet, it's 30.
It is 30.
It is
Thank
30
you.
feet.
okay.
And the residential district requires 8, which is why there was confusion earlier.
Sure. But he kept saying 20, and I keep waiting for one
Yep,
of you to
30.
correct
It's
him.
30.
Okay,
It's 30.
all right.
That existing accessory structure will stay,
I believe that's a pre-existing non-conforming use, so the plan is to leave it there.
And just for clarification from you all, you might be wondering, why aren't we seeing a height variance or accessory area variances as part of this? It's because it's zoned ag. Yep,
Right.
okay. Just want to make sure everyone remembers.
Which is why I believe we're not having a square footage question either. I'll explain later.
No, I get it.
Okay.
I'm waiting for you to ask your typical questions.
Does anybody have anything else?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, there appears to be 70 feet between the property line and the house. A 24-foot wide garage, I'm not super at math, but there's still plenty of room to run stuff between the house and the shed, even at, say, 15 feet.
It extends into that tree line. So if you look at, if we go back to that picture with the tree line, so the aesthetics of it where it's extending out beyond that tree line.
Yeah, okay,
He wants to hide it.
yeah, okay, well,
But the one at the driveway, if we have so see those line of trees?
I do.
And then it would come out and extend outside of that tree line.
So how close could he put it without extending it out of the tree line? I
How-
understand he's trying
How
to hide it.
close? 5. He'd like it at 5, but is there a practical number in between? There may be some other practical number in between,
That's
yes.
a wise question.
I mean, on the site plan that was given, it says 5 to 10 feet off of property line ideally, so.
And since this other building is 20 foot off,
15.
Yeah, I mean,
the other
you,
one's 30 by,
this doesn't have to be a yes or a no. I mean, you can put a footage on it, and he can either build it or he can't. Does anybody else have any questions for the petitioner, though? No? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Let's open this up to the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward. Seeing none. Any on Zoom? Seeing none. Is there anybody that would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward. Seeing none. Any on Zoom? Seeing none. Anybody else got any questions?
no, but if you do the math, like you're good at, you do the 20, and you come up with 30 on the other building, and if you want to try to line the driveway up, you put a 24, so that'd give you 6 foot, 20, so you'd want at least 15. You do a day, about all you'd have to have, and still line up the driveway, keep it in the tree line.
It still leaves 31 feet
Yeah,
between the house and shed.
oh yeah, still gives you.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but if this was residential and he wanted to, so the 30-foot rule technically is because of, if you back up to a field, the tractors are going around, they're kicking up rocks, they're doing this, they're doing that. That's the whole reason for a 30-foot setback, no, versus 8 foot in residential.
Right,
So if this was in residential, he could put this thing within 8 feet, and he would be satisfied with 8 feet, I assume, right? So this is one of those conflicts that I personally have with situations like this, that my property, I have 5.3 acres. I can put my pole barn that I'm building within 8 feet of the property line. It is what it is. Unfortunately, he can't here. It's 30 feet. So again, this doesn't have to be a yes or no. This can be a whatever you want with a footage that you want for a reason that you deem feasible.
So you got it pinned and surveyed?
A pin in the surveyor? Or the surveyor is here.
I just asked you if it was pinned and surveyed. Just because you got one pin doesn't mean you got all 4.
So,
So he can nail the 5 foot if he wanted to.
I don't understand.
No.
In other words, if you don't know exactly where the line is, you're just speculating.
No. He's gonna have to have it, in order to turn this into the building department, he's gonna have to have a survey, it's gonna have to be.
And to show the exact,
Yeah,
Right.
it's gonna have to
Exactly.
have all of the, when I build a building or a house, I take something similar to this in that's got it surveyed, right? So it's gonna have to be, he can't draw this in crayon like this and take it in there. He's gotta have a lot more measurements on it than what he has.
Unless you want to have another McKinley in 20 years.
So let me put it this way, you're not gonna draw it in crayon and take it in there
no,
because.
no, we're asking for the, you
The
know, the
variance.
setback. The
This is
variance
all
on the
that it
setback,
is.
so he can decide where he's
We're
gonna
good.
put it,
We're
because it's
good.
not built yet, and he'd like to be able to pour that driveway in.
We got it.
Bob Hawley, I'd like to make a motion for the petition for 66465 Mulberry Road, that it be sent forward with an acceptable approval.
So you're motioning that we approve the petition as
Right.
written?
Yes.
Okay.
5 foot's pretty tight. That's what they asked.
Then don't second. Can we amend another person's motion?
You're allowed to ask them to amend their motion.
Bob, would you consider amending your motion to 15 feet?
You know, I think they did enough research. To me, this is just my personal opinion. It's gonna be hidden, nobody's probably gonna see it much. It's, and I just think, you know, we're picking at cherries here, and I think we need to move on. I think it's fine, in my opinion.
None of you,
I'll make a second motion that we make it 10 foot like he drew on this, like he drew here, 5 to 10 feet.
I think 5's too close, under any circumstance.
Yeah, I think 5's a little too tight. 10's fine, but 5's a little too tight.
have a motion.
Second,
Second. hang on a
Lance Roush.
second. But we have a secondary motion for a different.
You can't make a motion yet, Cindy, you gotta wait until the first one dies.
Can I withdraw my motion?
Okay.
I'll withdraw.
All right, he withdrew his motion. Now I need a motion.
Now you go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we allow a 10-foot off the property line offset for building this building.
So this would be a
Cindy
motion
says
to approve the variance as amended to 10 feet instead of the requested 5.
If that's acceptable.
It
What?
doesn't matter.
Doesn't
what he
matter.
wants. It doesn't matter.
Lance Roush, second.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All right, motion and a second. Shelley,
Okay, as amended to 10 feet.
as amended to 10 feet.
Okay, so Sid was first, who was second?
Lance.
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Hawley?
Yes?
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Roush?
Yes.
Excuse me. And Mr. Tavernier?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, after careful consideration, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals grants your variance and will issue written findings of the facts.
Amended.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, amended variance of 10 foot and will issue written findings of the facts.
Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you, staff.
Number 5.
Location, 52493 Fur Road. Owner, Diocese of Fort Wayne, South Bend Incorporated, St. Pius Church, St. Pius Parish. Requested action, variance 1 from section 154.378, table 154-S2, to allow 167 square feet in area where a maximum of 100 square feet of sign surface area is allowed. Zoning C Commercial District, County.
This is Kylie Abrams again, Area Plan Commission staff. Staff is recommending denial of the requested variance. The petitioner is seeking to replace an existing freestanding sign with a 167 square foot sign along Fur Road for the St. Pius X Church and School campus. This property is split zoned R single family, O office, and C commercial, and is comprised of 9 different parcels. The petitioner is proposing to locate the sign within the C commercial district. If they were to locate the sign in the area zoned R single family, they would only be allowed a freestanding sign 32 square feet in area and 6 feet in height. By moving the sign from the residentially zoned area to the commercially zoned area, sign area increases from 32 to 100 square feet, and sign height increases from 6 feet to 15 feet. The proposed sign is 167 square feet and 15 feet in height, which is why the surface area variance is being requested. Here's the proposed site plan. The original proposal, again, was to locate the sign in the residentially zoned area, but they have proposed to move it to the commercially zoned area. This is a rendering of the sign elevation. Here's the existing church of a view from it from Fur Road. Here's the existing sign to be replaced. Looking south on Fur Road. Here's a vague area of the proposed location of the new sign. Looking north on Fur Road. Here's an existing temporary sign on State Road 23. And on to the criteria. Approval would not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Approval of the variance would likely not be injurious. The proposed sign would have little effect on the outside community. The sign would likely improve the general welfare of the students and church attendees by providing direction. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. A sign of this size, stature, and style would be extremely out of character for this area. Although portions of Fur Road have been improved and expanded upon, this portion of Fur Road from Cleveland to, from Cleveland to State Road 23 remains a more residential corridor with buffer-type businesses along it until the intersection of State Road 23. And there are no other comparable signs on Fur Road, which in this instance is a mostly narrow two-lane road. And number 3, the strict application of the terms of this chapter would result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. There's no practical difficulty in the use of the property in this case. The development standards for a church use in the residential district, which was the aforementioned 6 feet in height and 32 square feet in area, and the commercial district provide adequate square footage and height. And I'll take any questions.
Kylie, what's the zoning of the dental office at the northwest corner of Cleveland and
Those
Fur?
are zone business.
Okay,
Which is commercial, which is 100 square feet, correct?
For sign area, I'm honestly not sure what the sign area for business is. It would be less than commercial, though.
Business and commercial are both
Oh,
100 square
okay,
feet.
never mind, sorry about that.
I'm just kind of bringing up the point with regard to that corridor.
Yes.
A number of those properties have been sold and a couple of them have been tore down. So I didn't know if that was commercial or business. And they're moving the sign farther into their commercially zoned parcel?
Yes.
Per our recommendation, Lance,
Sure.
originally, we started with a sign variance for the residentially zoned portion, and there was a height variance associated with it. We, in working with the petitioner's agent, identified that they could eliminate the need for one of their variances by moving it to the commercially zoned portion.
Okay. Cool.
Do we have a picture of what they want to?
We sure do.
A good rendering, architectural drawing.
I don't,
In the very back of your pack, in the very back of your petition.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, it's on the back of that one.
Got it. I wasn't far enough down.
I guess he's got to make his presentation, then I can ask the question.
Okay, anybody guys else got any questions? Nope, name and address and, or sorry, Donnie, you got any questions? All right, name, address, in 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to come forward. My name is Doug Merritt. I'm a parishioner, and I'm also the Business Development Director for U.S. Sign
Address.
Crafters.
I need an address.
2319 Lincoln Way East, Mishawaka, Indiana, 46544. As a parishioner, we have looked at 28 acres of our campus. We have a school, we have a church, we have many activities, including the Knights of Columbus, that occur on the property and the campus itself on a daily basis. What we're looking to do is have a sign that is of sufficient height and of sufficient square footage that will identify and bring the individuals to the front of the main campus. And that's where we have the sign proposed on the site plan. We're looking to, from a 28-acre campus, we're looking to draw our traffic to Fur Road. Now, if you do go out to the property, if you have had the opportunity to go out to the property, you'll notice that there actually are signs in that area right across the street that are of a similar design and a similar size to what we're proposing. So we're asking for 15 feet in height, which is code compliant. We're asking for 167 square feet, where 100 square feet is compliant. Now, since we're asking for a departure of 67 square feet, if you take a look at the sign, and if I may impose upon staff, if you could go back to the elevation of the sign. The sign itself is of a masonry design. There's no electronic reader board or anything of that nature on this sign. It captures and emulates the building design that we have for our main sanctuary and for our school. So you'll look at appointments such as brick, limestone or masonry. Now, the area that actually comprises the sign is well under the 100 square feet. We're just looking at the scale of the sign itself, and that's where we're running into the variance and the need for the variance. With me today is Mark Wilcox, and Mark is the Director of Facilities and Operations. What I'd like to do is I'd like to invite Mark to come up. What Mark is going to touch on is a couple of different aspects of what the ordinance allows for, and that is if we have more than 3 tenants on this property, we would actually be allowed and entitled to sign. So what I'd like to do is invite Mark to come up and speak to all the activities that occur on 28 acres of our campus.
Thank you for entertaining our notions here.
We need your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark Wilcox. Business address is 52553 Fur Road, which is the campus. Home address 10397 Glenlee Trail in Granger. Aside from this just being a single tenant, we do entertain a lot on this campus. We have the church itself, we have the school. Because of the size of our church, we are also asked to help out with things for Notre Dame. We've had Notre Dame's children choir there. We've had different speakers there from Notre Dame so they could get things off campus. We are part of the Diocese of Fort Wayne South Bend. Fort Wayne, of course, has a cathedral over there. If they need to have speakers or need to set something else up over here, the other auxiliary cathedral is St. Matthew's, which has very little parking. So our area here is used quite frequently for different things that they run on either side of the diocese. Some of the other, especially during the pandemic when we had social distancing areas, we actually opened it up and we did confirmations and First Communions for quite a few of the churches in Mishawaka and South Bend, just so they could do it with less disruption and to keep everybody safe. As Doug said, we have the Knights of Columbus that come there. We have different kind of sporting events. We were running, working with lacrosse last year, or 2 years ago, I'm sorry, before the pandemic. And just with the size of the parish, we need, again, something where people aren't just driving around the building and trying to look for something, for some place to go. Additionally, we do things with the community. We run at least 3 blood drives there every year. We have Alcoholics Anonymous meeting there every week. So we are trying to also be, use the sign as a part to show that we are part of the community. Thank you very much.
And with that, I'd like to open up to any questions that you may have from staff and from the Board of Zoning Appeals.
How will this sign be lit up at,
It's non-illuminated.
pardon?
It is non-illuminated. It is not illuminated.
No,
It will be externally illuminated, so it does not light up at all. It's a masonry sign. So it's just like the building itself. It's,
but you don't have you have a light going on?
we will have a light, not flashing, but situated on the ground that actually casts a light and illuminates the masonry design itself.
Anybody else got questions?
The other sign will be removed?
This other sign is actually already removed. We removed 2 signs about a week and a half ago. One of the questions that we brought up a little bit earlier, Abby and I discussed prior to the hearing, is that incrementally, for every 500 feet, we would be entitled to an additional sign on the campus. So with 28 acres, we could potentially have a lot of signs. And we're not looking to have a proliferation of signs. We're looking to aesthetically draw, people to the primary entrance, and that's on Fur Road. So we're looking for a size of a sign that is relatively in scale and in keeping with the materials of the building. So we do ask for your favorable recommendation today. And if it would, bear any fruit at this point, we would be willing to enter into an agreement with the county that we would not allow for additional ground signs or the proliferation of additional ground signs on that 28-acre campus. if we could enter into an agreement for signage on Fur Road and signage on State Road 23.
Anybody else got anything? No? No? Okay, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Can I clarify the frontage aspect that Doug brought up?
The what?
Gentlemen, do you mind if I clarify something in the ordinance?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Donnie. All right, so what Doug is referring to is that if lot frontage is greater than 500 feet, additional signs are allowed at a rate of 1 sign per every 500 square feet, or 500 feet of additional frontage. Total area may be combined into 1 larger sign or divided between multiple signs with the minimum separation. So what he's saying, and I apologize, Doug, I don't know total frontage along State Road 23 and for you. It's something Kylie and I were looking at initially, but I don't know off the top of my head. But they're saying rather than have additional signs, they'd like the this frontage, or they'd like the variance, but would agree to no additional signs.
I did have another question too. I should have asked. Is there any kind of landscaping that's needed or provided?
We will be providing landscaping at the base of the sign, which is complementary to what's already available on the property, but we would certainly increase and put annual flowers and so forth around the base of the sign.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's good? All right, I'm gonna open it up to the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this petition, please step forward. Seeing none, any on Zoom? Seeing none. Anybody that would like to speak against this petition, please step forward. Seeing none, any on Zoom? Seeing none, public portion is now closed. You guys got any more questions?
Yeah, what is the actual footprint? Go to the next page. Page. No, look at there, it's on there somewhere. Three foot that way, but what about the width? You know, in other words, how. It don't show how far off the right of way they are. They're not asking for variance to
Yeah,
that.
they're
so
not
I
asking
suspect
for
it's-
that. You're,
Is what it is. No, but I'm just looking at blocking vision.
If there's a question in regards to the sign location, 10 feet is what is required for setback, and that it can't be in the vision clearance area, or clear sight triangle.
I thought it looked like there was enough room there and no big deal, but
We would evaluate that upon application for the improvement location permit.
Permit.
yeah. But I don't know if you ever tried to look through something like that. It's like trees that they put in medians.
No, it's like corn.
That's just as bad on the corners. Okay, gonna make a motion, Lance?
you wanna make a motion, Sid?
Sure, I make a motion, we accept what the diocese would like to do here with the sign, because I don't think it will adversely affect anything that I can tell of.
That was Sid Schaefer. Lance Roush, second.
Okay, motion and a second.
Mr. Hawley?
Mix it up.
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Roush?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, after careful consideration, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals grants your variance and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you. 6 has been tabled.
Number State Road 22. Thank you.
After this meeting.
I did take a bath.
All right, number 7.
Number 6 was tabled.
Number 6 was tabled.
Location 16475 Ronnie's Drive. Owner Emilio and Erica Irene Ducre. Requested action, variance 1 from section 154.079, sub C, 1C, to allow a recreational vehicle to be stored in a minimum front yard and not to be screened from the right-of-way with type 2 full screening landscaping, as defined in section 154.331. Zoning R Single Family District, County.
Kylie Abrams again, Area Plan Commission staff. Staff is recommending denial of the proposed variance. In June of 2021, staff became aware of the RV in violation of the zoning ordinance via a complaint from a nearby neighbor. The zoning ordinance requires that an RV be stored in an enclosed structure behind the front line of the home or between the front building line and the minimum front yard, so long as it is fully screened with type 2 landscaping. The petitioner currently experiences practical difficulties in storing the RV behind the home due to the width of the home. There is little room for type 2 landscaping as well that could adequately screen the RV without blocking line of sight or encroaching on the neighbor's property. Here's the provided site plan. As you can see in this photo, there is little room to plant type 2 landscaping without, as I said, encroaching on the neighbor's property or blocking the gate access to the backyard. Here's the RV in violation, looking west and east. And on to the criteria. Approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Approval could potentially be injurious to the community. Staff became aware of the violation through a complaint from the community, therefore implying previous and possibly ongoing injury. 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Use and value of the adjacent area could potentially be adversely affected. There are no other zoning violations in the area and no improperly stored RVs or trailers, as you can see in the provided photos, so it is very out of character for the area. And there was the aforementioned zoning complaint. And number 3, the strict application of the terms of the chapter would result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. There is, in this case, significant practical difficulty in the use of the property. The petitioner is prevented from adequately storing the RV behind the home or screening it with type 2 landscaping because of the limited space in both side yards. And I'll take any questions.
Nope,
Again, how did this come up?
nobody complained.
We received a complaint from a neighbor,
Thank
which was anonymous.
Okay, thank you.
I am the homeowner. Am I allowed to speak?
Hey, hang on one second, sir. We have
Okay,
another
sorry.
one up there. All right, does anybody else got any questions? No? All right, I'll open it up to you now, sir. I need your name and address, and you have 10 minutes.
My name is Emilio Decret. I am the property owner of 16475 Ronnie's Drive. I am on Zoom as my wife cannot attend. I do know where the call came from. It was the neighbor to the west of me. who was upset because he came into my yard where my camper currently sits and cut a bush down while I was gone. And then I yelled at him for it. And then in June or July of 21, that's when I got served by the county about my camper. Now, I understand that it is in the process of moving. It has been very costly to us because we had to get a tree removed where I have the new concrete drive board. So that was costly to us. And then I'm very limited on where I can store the camper and adjust my driveway because there's a gas main there. And so since then, I know this is a recent picture, but the camper is currently off the property. And the end result is to have it poured on that pad and not to have bushes or any kind of brush planted. That way I can be able to access my backyard. And there is other campers in our neighborhood who kind of have the same thing with limited access to be able to put it in their backyard. And I'm just asking that allow my camper to be put back on my property on the poured pad where what we originally paid for.
Okay, anything else?
No, and other than I haven't had no other complaints other than the one that was called in from my neighbor who's no longer with us. He's since passed. But I have had no other complaints, and most of my neighbors like the new pad that we have poured. So we just haven't had a chance to get it properly put over there yet.
All right.
Sir, I have a question. Do you, how much storage during the year does this exist in front of your house? Do you
I
use
would
it
like
to
to
go
keep
to
it there
float?
year round. That's why we poured the pad. We do use it a lot. We camp. We take it when my daughter plays travel ball. So I would like to keep it there as much as possible rather than having to pay for storage.
In the wintertime, it could be there also?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So, Kylie, we just go back one slide. Oh, okay, maybe one more. Wasn't there? Yeah, right there.
that one.
Okay. So this picture that's on the screen right now, you're planning on putting your camper on that new pad you extended your driveway?
Yes, where the garbage cans are that you can see in the background. I have it as close to the edge of the concrete as I can to keep it out. And it does get it a little further back from line of sight because I can get it closer to my house as where it sits right now on the temporary pad. I can actually bring it back closer to my house about another 5 or 6 feet to my garage, I should say.
Okay,
And allow myself to still access my garage from my wife's vehicle.
complete misunderstanding on my part. I thought it was staying in that gravel drive that was right there.
No, 100%. My intentions are to get it back properly where it's at right now, in this pad that we paid for.
All right, so that gravel is gonna come out and then you're gonna essentially plant grass back there?
100%, yes.
Okay.
This picture that we're looking at right now shows a truck out there. Is that the truck that pulls the camper?
Yes.
Does that truck stay out all the time?
Yes, because it's too big to get into the garage.
Thank you.
And I also have a work vehicle that I park there as well.
Okay.
Feel your pain. All right, does anybody else got anything? Okay, thanks, sir. I will open this up to the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward. Seeing none. Any on Zoom? Seeing none. Is there anybody that would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward. Seeing none. Any on Zoom? Seeing none. Public portion is now closed. You guys got any other questions, or I'll take a motion?
I can confirm we haven't received another complaint since June of 2021.
Okay. Can't look at that. Can't use that. No, it's not correct at all.
No.
Okay.
I just sorted papers.
No? Actually, I don't think since Brandy's not here, I don't actually think we can move forward.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Where'd she go?
Is everybody
Can I
okay?
ask Kylie a question?
Yeah,
I think so. Yes.
yeah, I might be
Sure.
able to answer it.
Okay. The type 2 landscaping, what type of plants fall under that category again?
So those would be like arborvitae, bushes, anything that's full screened, evergreen trees of a certain height, and that are guaranteed to grow to a certain height. Things such as that are, yeah, basically arborvitaes and evergreen trees are the two common ones. And as you can see, there's not really room for evergreen trees here.
You gotta keep the load off the 6 foot too. That's what fencing is.
No, I don't think
She's
that's the
back.
case.
Motion
I guess,
or not?
Please continue.
Yeah, we can make a motion without you here, right?
Yeah, you don't need me for that, only when there's something weird.
Okay, all right, I'll take a motion.
this just seems to me to be one of those situations where if we run
I'll
up and
make
down the
a,
street,
Bob
there'll be
Hawley,
20
I'll
of them.
make a motion that the request be denied.
I second.
Okay,
Mr. Roush?
No.
Mr. Schaefer?
No.
Mr. Hawley?
When I say no, am I saying no to my,
yeah, you're saying no to your own,
no? Yes,
That is hard. It's like a double negative.
been a long
Miss-
day.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
no.
Failed.
Is there a full moon out today?
Barometric pressure.
There has been, yeah.
We need you to move a little quicker.
Yeah.
So somebody make the opposite motion, please.
Are we tabling 8 and 9?
No, not if you can get through this one.
I make a motion, Sid Schaefer, that we accept the, what do you wanna call it?
Variance.
The variance for 16475 Ronnie's Drive as presented.
Lance Roush, second.
Mr. Hawley?
No,
Mr. Ritzma?
No?
Mr. Roush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes. All right, so it,
Up and down vote both failed. If nobody has like an alternative one, it's just tabled to the next meeting.
And then we'll have 7 members.
yeah.
so it's tabled,
Yep, so let's read the next one, fast.
October meeting, okay. Okay, Walnut,
Locate, oh,
So-
you're going, Shelley?
I was going.
Okay.
309 Walnut Street and 305 Walnut Street. Owner Brenda and Pedro Cruz requested action, variance 1 from section 4.01 sub K, the minimum required lot width of 100 feet to 32 feet for a lot in a proposed subdivision zoning R1, single-family district, Osceola.
Carl Brown Grimm, area plan staff again. I'm going to go fast. What's happening here is there are 2 properties, and they wish to reconfigure lot lines to legalize existing, or to make existing improvements make more sense. There's a site plan of it. I'm going to skip right to the state stuff. Approval would not be injurious to the public. It's not going to change how the petitioner's properties are used, and there are no new buildings or improvements as shown on the site plan. Approval is not going to affect the value of adjacent properties. The proposed lot line adjustment will have no impact on properties other than the 2 lots owned by the petitioners. The use of the lots and surrounding properties will not be affected. And finally, strictly applying the terms of the chapter would result in practical difficulties because it would not allow a lot line adjustment that provides for a more logically shaped parcel. Separating the existing driveway on 309 East Walnut, that portion that lies on the property of 305 East Walnut will prevent confusion among future property owners. And if you have any questions, I will take them now.
anybody else got anything? Nope, Terry?
Terry Lang from Lang, Feeney, Whiteman Team. Address is 715 South Michigan Street here in South Bend to represent the petitioners. This piece of property, the variance before you is to move a property line as shown there. When you go back to the aerial, it's little, you can see the driveway was placed accidentally across the property line. We had previously got a variance for the lot, for the home to be built in the back when the plat was done originally. We are getting a variance to move that line over to legalize that driveway so it's on the property. And we've got a minor sub prepared, ready to submit right behind to make that legal then.
Anybody got anything? Pretty cut and dry. All right. Thanks, sir. Is there anybody that would like to, I'll open this up to the public. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this petition? Please step forward. Seeing none, there's nobody on Zoom. Is there anybody that would like to speak against this petition? Please step forward. Seeing none, nobody on Zoom. You guys got anything else?
I'd like to make a motion that we, Bob Hawley, that we approve the petition as presented for 309 Walnut and 305 Walnut Street.
Donnie Ritzmond, second.
Mr. Roush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning and Appeals, after careful consideration, grants your variance and will issue written findings of the facts.
Thank you.
Location 26065 Roosevelt Road and unaddressed partial abutting 26065 Roosevelt to the west, east, and north. Owner Shane and Michelle Whitmer. Requested action, variance 1 from section 154.092 sub A to allow a lot area of 10 acres where a minimum of 20 acres is required, zoning A, agricultural district, county.
Carl Brown Grimm, area plan staff again. Staff recommends approval of this variance. The petitioner is seeking to divide approximately 10 acres from the agricultural field that they own shown here and add it to the encompassed residential property while placing the remaining balance of the land of the farm field in an outlot. Property zone agriculture, minimum is 20 acres. However, placing the remaining about 32 acres of land into an outlot will remove the possibility of an additional residential dwelling being created by right based on the available land and frontage in the farm field. There's a site plan, some views. I'm going to move forward to the state criteria. Approval would not be injurious to the public. The proposed variances do not change how the properties are being used, and the abutting properties will be unaffected. Placing the larger lot into an outlot will remove the possibility of additional residential use in the ag district. Approval will also not affect adjacent properties. The petitioner has indicated that the functions of the residential house and the farm fields will remain as they are today. No additional structures or changes to the land are shown in the site plan. And finally, the strict application would result in practical difficulties as it would prevent a subdivision, which through the creation of an outlot removes the possibility of an additional by right residential development in the ag district, and therefore preserves more land for the exclusive agricultural use. And if you have any questions, I will take them now.
Anybody got anything?
Yeah.
Nope.
What's the overall parcel outlined in yellow? How many acres?
42 and a half acres. And it has approximately 1,000 feet of frontage. So if they wanted to, they could build another farmhouse on the overall lot.
42 and a half.
Mhm.
Where's the 10 acres?
Go back to the site plan. It's just the area we
They're
showed
cutting
that
off
one.
the,
Leaving like a lane on the south side, or
On
the
on the east side there.
east side.
So they eating all the road frontage up.
Okay.
Terry
Anybody got a
Lang.
question? No? Good? Terry?
Terry Lang from Lang, Feeney, and Whiteman Team, address 715 South Michigan Street here in South Bend. I represent the petitioners. The prospective buyers live in a little house right there and a little pole building behind it. They desire to pick up, so they have a total of 10 acres right there in the configuration that you see. A majority of that's going to continue to be agriculturally farmed. They just want a little bit more space. They're thinking of having farm animals for like 4-H projects and things like that. So this will allow them to have the additional space that they need for that. There are no additional buildings proposed at this time at all, but it will continue to be agriculturally used, and we agree to the balance of the property being made into an outlot.
Okay. Anybody got anything?
How wide's the driveway to
That's left, I think it was 50 foot, I
I
think.
thought it was 6 deep. but
I do want you to have all your questions answered, but also, we have somebody waiting on the room, so. Ask questions fast if you have them.
No, just,
We've provided a wide enough farm lane there to get back to that property in the back then.
Also, the ordinance does not specify a frontage requirement for outlots.
Frontage requirement for what?
For outlots, so
Right.
what they're proposing here doesn't necessarily even have to have frontage.
that's good?
Rue, you got a meeting coming in here?
Yeah, the city has a budget meeting that was posted at 4.
Open to public.
Okay. Anybody else got anything? No? All right, let me open it up to the public. Is anybody who would like to speak in favor of this petition, please step forward. Seeing none, none on Zoom. Anybody who would like to speak against? Seeing none, none on Zoom. I'll take a motion.
Tony Ritza, make a motion to approve.
Second, Bob Hawley.
Mr. Roush?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, after careful consideration, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals grants your variance and will issue written findings of the facts.
And I recommend that the findings of the fact and the minutes from August 10th be moved for approval together.
Just getting ready to ask you that. We need
Somebody needs to make that motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the findings of the facts and the minutes from the August meeting.
Second, Bob Hawley.
Voice vote's okay.
I'm sorry?
You can do voice vote.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now you got to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in
Get the
favor?
heck out of
Aye.
here.
All right.
We didn't want to be here this long any longer than you did.
Gosh, no.
I'm gonna show you this.
All right.
You guys are good at this. You tell me that, like, said some neighbors ain't too close to the property.
No. Nope.
Yeah, that's ours.
Stop share. And meeting. Stop recording.